excited and terrified by it. I think it's very cool and exciting, the things that we can now use AI for, but I think it is going to just upend our lives in a way that most people aren't prepared for, in the sense that, AI can now replace a lot of graphic designers. If you need a logo, you don't necessarily need to hire a graphic designer. If you need music for a website or for a thing, you don't need to pay a musician to create something, or you don't need to pay royalties for existing music, or even buy royalty or find royalty. You can just make your own and whatever tune you want. Copywriters, now AI can just write and just edit the copy for you.
Two bored apes talking NFTs, DeFi, and some random stuff. Two bored apes talking NFTs, DeFi, and some random stuff.
Welcome to episode 62 of Two Bored Apes. I'm your host, Jamie. I'm here with my friend and co-host, Roy. Roy, how are you?
I'm good, Jamie. How are you?
I'm good.
I just totally lost my train of thought. I was going to say, where in the world are you? But you're at home. I'm in the Philippines.
Yes.
And yeah, but
You messaged me like 3 days ago talking about how you just landed in the Philippines. I was like, I had no idea you were going to the Philippines. What's even going on there? I mean, I imagine it's some sort of Web3 thing, but
yeah, there's Philippine
don't know.
Blockchain Week going on, or just
Okay.
finished, or today's the last day, and I came here for that. But I leave tomorrow. The food here is incredible. Getting back on topic for our podcast.
I've eaten very little Filipino food in my life.
It turns out I had as well. Like, I didn't necessarily.
Chicken adobo is like the main big national dish that people know about, right?
Yep. I had that. There's something called sisig, which is really delicious, like crispy pork bits. And anyway, should we talk about NFTs, crypto, DeFi?
I guess
random stuff.
We did hear from somebody in our Discord that they liked the food talk and what happened to the recent food talk, which is funny because we got told by our producer recently, maybe 8 episodes ago, like, you guys need to stop talking about food immediately. And so we kind of listened, and then we got pushed back in the other direction, going, "Hey, what happened to the food talk?" So now we don't know what to do.
Let us know.
You can't please everyone, right? That's what they say.
Tweet at us or jump in the Discord and tell us if you like the food talk or not.
But yeah, so we got a little bit of food talk out of the way. Now let's jump into the Web3
news of the
stuff.
week.
News of the week.
Art Basil's going on, and that's kind of like
Art Basel is going on in Miami. That's something.
There's a lot of people there, a lot of stuff happening there. Have you been? You didn't go this year.
I have not.
Did you go last year?
I've never even been to Miami.
Wow, it's kind of a little wild, given you live
a little bit. Yeah, I've been kind of all over
the East
this
Coast.
country, but
yeah,
only been to Orlando in Florida.
Me too, actually. Me too. A long time ago, like 15 years ago.
Okay.
Long time ago. Okay. Some cool stuff happening at Art Basel. A lot of events, a lot of Web3 events, a lot of cool art block stuff. I don't know if you've seen.
It's sort of art focused, right? Art Basel.
It's right there in the name.
Yeah, but like, just in terms of Web3, it's not as interested necessarily, right, in the profile picture stuff.
No.
And, DeFi or whatever, but the pure art on blockchain stuff, it has a big presence there nowadays.
Yeah, which is cool, which is great.
Yeah.
But since neither of us are there, I guess we can't report too much on it.
We need to get like a reporter out in the
on the ground.
Call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get somebody to report in for us from there. What's going on? Now, have you been watching the World Cup, Roy?
No. Sports. Jimmy.
Australia made it out of the group stage, though. That's something, right? I don't think you guys are supposed to be very good at soccer, so that's kind of impressive. Only half the teams make it out of the group stage, and you guys made it out.
Okay. Well, that's good for us. And America made it out too, right?
Yeah, it's pretty excellent.
Yeah. You
guys are playing Argentina next, though. That's going to be tough. Messi.
I remember that Argentina lost like the very first game they played, and it was like some massive upset, and there's all this uproar.
They lost to Saudi Arabia. It was shocking.
Yeah, but they made it out. So, is there another group stage now? What's happening?
Now it's basically just a pure bracket.
Oh, it's a bracket. Okay, cool. Who's the favorite?
You bet on it? Probably Brazil or France, I think, are the two biggest.
Did you bet on the World Cup?
I haven't bet on anything. Germany got knocked out in the first round, and they were probably one of the other top 3 teams, which is crazy.
Yeah, I know that Germany's meant to be good.
They didn't make it out of the first round last time either, so they're all sorts of fucked.
I'm struggling.
They're supposed to be so good. Oh, you live in Germany now.
I do, although I spend very little time there, all things considered.
Do you want to try and figure out something to talk about Art Basel more? Or do you want to move on to SBF or
move on to SBF, which is just blowing my mind? The media coverage on him being so light, pleasant.
Now, have
unharsh.
you actually read articles, or have you just been kind of reading headlines that get passed around?
I've done both. I've read a few articles and seen way more headlines, and it's just
because I see a lot of people talking and reading headlines and little out of context clips, which is, not really going to tell you what the article is stating.
Right. Yeah. But still, it seems like most of the mainstream media articles are going very easy on him, saying he's a kid that made a mistake. And
now, does it seem like that from headlines and out of context things, or from entire articles?
Both. I mean, there's definitely some articles that are like very on point and go into like all the details of like what seems like very elaborate fraud and deception and money just theft. And,
right.
I think the New Yorker had a really excellent article.
You're saying that there's some good and then there's some bad, right? But within the basically space that we exist in on Twitter of crypto talk, Web3, right? There's just so much more engagement talking about the ones that are fucking it up, And so we have, I think, a disproportionately negative view on how good the reporting has been, because it's so much more successful to tweet the ridiculous headlines and the ridiculous pieces of that stuff. But I'm all for having a critical eye towards what the media says, because they have a documented history of not always telling the truth, or at this point it seems like the main issue to me is more about just the revenue model for all of it is not necessarily about informing people about important stuff in an informative way, right? It's just about generating shares and clicks, stuff like that. Engagement, which is obviously very, very different from the kind of material that is going to make democracies have the most educated voter bases, or whatever we ought to want out of media.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that everyone's up in arms about now is like the video interview he did with, I think, the New York Times.
Andrew Ross Sorkin was the guy doing the interview. Yeah. So that's the thing. That was booked in advance. Before all the shit came out. So his being on the panel was reasonable at the time it was booked. And here's the funny thing, especially being married to a lawyer, but even if not, if you have some understanding of lawyers, which you've been working with them a bit now that you're so deep in Web3 and have projects or whatever, but his lawyers must fucking hate him so much. so much. And that is quite funny to me. But yeah, I guess like in his mind, he's going to go, I'm going to not back out and I'm going to try and work on redeeming myself, which is sort of what he's doing. He's on a little bit of a media redemption tour to try and, sort of double down on the somewhat positive view that a lot of the media has had on him. And here's one thing that was a little bit annoying to me, right, is that we in crypto Twitter have been critical of the media for the way it's been handled. Largely rightfully so, I would say, right? And there's even been specific talk I saw where people are going, well, why are they not talking to people who actually know what's going on, right? And then we had an example, I don't know if you saw this, Forbes wrote an article on it and contacted a prominent member of crypto Twitter, and then he just lied and trolled them because it was going to be funny, and said something about how we all consider whatever Caroline, I believe is her name, is like our queen, and we bowed, or all this stuff. So it's like, and again, I don't like when people say stuff about how I see people want this, but then they do this, when it's like they're actually talking about two different people, and everybody is just the other to them. So if this crypto Twitter guy specifically didn't complain about the coverage, okay. But anyway, as a self-policing community, it's tough for us to go, your coverage is bad. If you wanted the real scoop, talk to us. And then when we have the opportunity to get talked to, we just troll them for the lulz. It's like that's not helping anybody except for, our sense of owning people by being funny and lying.
Yeah,
That was
didn't see
personally
that.
annoying to me.
Do you know if that had anything to do with Caroline and I forget the other person's name who were named 30 under 30 Forbes,
Trabuco or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Sam Trabuco, I think, is the guy you're talking about. I think specifically the trolling that this person from Crypto Twitter did was talking about how we worship Caroline or something to that effect, and how she's a queen. I think I can't specifically remember, but I believe that was sort of the the main point of the troll was how she's perfect or some nonsense.
Yeah, we have a lot of room to improve as a space in many areas.
Yeah.
Anything else SBF FTX related? We covered a lot of it last week.
I think he was in like a Twitter Spaces earlier today with that new annoying guy Mario Nawal. Yeah,
oh, he's terrible.
Yeah. I mean, he's only been enough on the peripheries for me to not have to engage too much with the terribleness, but he seems like a bad person for the space.
Yeah. Well, can we talk about AI for a little bit? Because I'm fascinated by it.
You've been tweeting about it a lot lately. It's really top or front of your mind, it seems.
It is, just because it seems like every week I see some like monumental leap forward in like the applications that are being released for AI, and it's just like I feel like we're at the cusp of this exponential tipping point where there's been so much work that's been happening for 15 years, and now, I mean, probably longer, but like really, and now it's like culminating in we've got all these tools and applications that finally end users can interact with, instead of just Google or instead of just massive companies like taking on
OpenAI being probably the other big famous one.
And I'm excited and terrified by it. I think it's very cool and exciting, the things that we can now use AI for, but I think it is going to just upend our lives in a way that most people aren't prepared for, in the sense that AI can now replace a lot of graphic designers. If you need a logo, you don't necessarily need to hire a graphic designer. If you need music for a website or for a thing, you don't need to pay a musician to create something, or you don't need to pay royalties for existing music, or even buy royalty or find royalty. You can just make your own in whatever tune you want. Copywriters, now AI can just write and just edit the copy for you. Coders, there's GitHub has just I can't remember what it's called, but something to assist people that writes entire chunks of code, and you write code and then it makes it more efficient. And then yesterday OpenAI came out with like chatbot, I think it's called, where you just ask the AI any question and it comes up with what seems like very reasonable answers. It's not perfect, obviously it still gets things wrong, but it just shows the potential of what's possible. And yeah,
it's interesting because I basically agree with all the stuff you're saying. I do, in terms of just thinking about some of sort of the smaller specifics, like when you think about students that have to write essays now, and the professors or teachers that have to like grade them, it seems so trivial for the people to just put the prompt into one of these things and get a perfectly good essay spit right out immediately.
Yeah.
So that seems like a crazy thing that I'm not sure how that's going to get dealt with. It's also kind of interesting where, like, you're talking about the chatbot specifically, right, where you're asking it this question and it's giving the output, and it feels like we sort of had the first part of this already with Google, right, where you could just scour the internet for all the information, but now we have this machine learning that's able to basically parse the information for us and go through the various sites and all of this and put together the narrative or whatever of what we're trying to learn, whatever the case may be, right, and get it right there. And it's just like another huge leap.
Yeah, I equate it to like, it's like as big as the internet, or almost as big as the internet being a thing and going mainstream and search engines, and now we have AI, and I think it's just gonna sort of impact every area of our lives, basically.
Yeah,
It's very
and
exciting because I think it's going to
it's
unlock so
also
much potential.
interesting. It's also interesting a little bit, like the people that sort of try to, I don't want to say resist, but deny or ignore it, right? Where, you know, if you looked at 7 months ago, right, you'd look at some of the image generators, and they would have like their little critiques about whatever, and then it's like, whatever you think you're owning them with, like in 2.5 months, that's no longer going to be a thing, you know. Never mind in a whole year, how
Yeah.
far we're going to get past that. And like, so I saw one specific instance on Twitter today where someone was showing an example, like you were saying earlier, where basically it's just coding, right, or
Mm.
improving code for you. And it was impressive, but then somebody in the comments was responding about how like it made this one worse or fucked it up or had this error. And it's like, yeah, I mean, it's not 100% perfect yet, but what it is crazy, and the speed at which it's improving is crazier still, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's
like any of the holdouts, sorry to keep going, but like, um you know, Go was a famous example, right, where people had theorized, basically before we had the understanding of what machine learning could do, really, that computers can never beat it because the size of the game tree is so big that you can't brute force it no matter how powerful your computers.
mm-hmm.
And that's basically true. The game tree is so big that you can't brute force it. But it turns out there's a lot of stuff that computers can do when you add a little bit of, you know, matrix multiplication, basically, um, linear algebra, that isn't just brute forcing, right? When you have all these powerful machine learning models, you don't need to do you need to do a lot of calculations. Let's not act like
Yeah.
it's not extremely computationally intensive, but it's not the same thing as, you know, counting every atom in the universe 1,000 times over. And then the other thing that's kind of amazing about it, right, is you make these models, and you can sort of use them indefinitely in a way that is much less computationally intensive than it was to build the model in the first place. So you don't have to basically start from scratch every time you want to figure out this chess position or this go position, to give those sort of
Yeah.
older open AI type examples, Stockfish, all those.
And another like thing that people used to say that's been proven wrong is, you know, the creatives are kind of safe. AI is not going to be able to write poetry and create art, and now we're very much seeing that that's just false. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
AI can kind of do, I think, virtually anything already, and it's like, I think eventually it can be able to do virtually anything. At the moment, there's a lot of stuff obviously that it's limited by.
Mm-hmm.
Largely manual labor is a big area where it's, you know, robotics is very advanced and is doing a lot of stuff already, but it's like there's a lot of jobs that currently can't be replaced by AI because robotics maybe aren't as up to scratch as they need to be, but
Yeah,
it's just a
it's
matter
more
of time.
powerful in a purely digital realm right now, for
Yeah.
sure, than when you kind of bring it into the meat world, so to speak.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll talk more about AI next week, week after. It's
Yeah.
front of mind
So
for me.
did you see the art competition that got won by an
Hmm.
AI generated piece, like maybe 2 months ago or something?
Yeah. The piece looked
That
amazing.
speaks to what you're talking about, a little bit. And but there was such a big uproar in the aftermath. And the other thing is too, it was like, it was specifically like a digital or computer generated art contest. It wasn't even
Mm.
supposed to be sort of trad art, but now they're doing basically the same thing, right? That what's going on down here? They're doing the same basic thing. My chair was not moving for the listeners. Uh, Sort of the same thing, right? That traditional art would do to digital art, where they're going, that doesn't count because you're
Mm.
using this thing that isn't the
Yeah.
same as the
Photoshop
way.
isn't real art,
Right.
etc. New
You know,
tools keep
there
coming out.
is a sense to me that, you know, the amount of lifting that's being done by the tools versus the creators does seem to get heavier and heavier for the tools, and lighter for the artists, so to speak. So there's, I think at some point, you know, right, it's called artificial intelligence, right? It's maybe worth talking about who really is the artist. Is it the AI, or is it the person giving it the prompts, or is it some hybrid? And how much of the credit should go to the AI versus the prompter? Um, And, you know, you
Yeah.
also have some people that are a little bit more OG in the AI art generating scene that kind of will make their own algorithms rather than using, you know,
Mm-hmm.
out of the box ones from some company or whatever. And how much of a difference does that make to whether or not you are an artist, and how
Mm.
much of the artist is actually the AI and all that? It's an interesting thing, and I do think it's not quite as simple as just going, no, it's definitely purely art, because, you know, there's just such a low level of effort that is allowed to be put in by the human to generate such complexity over here. And there's so much that happens in between you putting that in and the output coming out that you don't even, as the user, understand. Whereas, you know, if you come back a couple steps to Photoshop, for instance, and even stuff before that that perhaps people would maybe poo-poo as not art because the tools were too powerful. There was more of an understanding and a wielding of the power of these tools by the artist, in a way that, you know, they were really directing them in a way that it seems like the AI is doing so much of the heavy lifting at this
Mm.
point for a lot of the stuff. And to just think of a more clever sentence to put into it. And here's another thing, right? Is that with like the seeds that they these use, the random seeds, for the people listening, basically that means, you know, if you put in the same sentence into one of these three different times, you'll get three different generated artworks
Mm.
because it's going to have a different random seed. That again, I think, is sort of a thing where if you look at what the human is doing and trying to call it art, there's something strange about the fact that me, you, and Frank over here can all type in we're doing the exact same thing, and we're
Mm.
getting three different pieces of art over here. And now, if we're judging the art, but the work that we, the artists, did over here is identical, how do we get such different art that, you know,
Yeah.
that's a weird thing.
Yeah. It's There's so much nuance involved in, and it's going to be ongoing to decide like what is AI art, what is like what impact does an artist have, and so on and so forth. And I think we're probably going to enter, we're kind of already there, but like this era of whether something is created by AI or not, kind of the same way as like it'll be like human created or AI created. And I think it's going to be like two different delineations, kind of like how people, and there's probably going to be a premium paid on anything that's human created because of the time and manual labor involved, similar to maybe how I don't know if it's a perfect analogy, but like organic food. Like some people prefer, for X, Y, and Z reasons, to pay a premium and buy organic food. Other people are less concerned with that and will just buy mass produced, you know.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah,
I
I'm
think we're
not
going to
sure
in an
if I
era
love
where
the analogy, but there's something there.
there's something there. And yeah, I think we'll end up where it's something is like produced with or with the assistance of or by AI, or 100% human created.
Yeah, it's a very peculiar thing, and it's only going to be more prevalent, right? There's only going to be more examples of it. It's more powerful. More people are using it. There is something also, I would say, too, and this will change over time. But if you want to talk again about, you know, are the people using it artists, blah 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 blah, is it art, blah 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 blah, the fact that people are using it, like, it's so not widespread, I would say, to use these things to try and create art, that there is something inherently artistic about actually using it and actually trying to create art with it. You know what I mean? That in and of
Mm,
itself is sort of an artistic expression, an artistic action. um,
yeah.
but I think it's going to probably be, just so much more widespread and used so much more. Like, you know, right now, a lot of times, maybe, if you're in a group chat or whatever, you look for a GIF or a good meme to respond to something with, but you're looking for these existing ones. It seems like, you know, in the very near future, we'll just have prompts that we
Mm,
are using to generate the perfect response meme, the perfect response GIF. um, you know, and so it's going to be sort of a more small scale commodified use case in that instance to me, rather than these people that are explicitly at the forefront now using it to try and create art. So there's sort of that delineation, I think, that's kind of relevant to the debate as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of on that note as well. A lot of people are saying how, like, chatbot, again, getting back to that specifically, is like going to replace Google, because instead of Googling something, you can just ask a very specific personal question and get the exact response, rather than getting this like large response and having to filter through and finding it yourself. It'll just be like, hey AI, I want a recipe for the perfect brownies with, like, you know, a fudgy center and a crispy outside. No
How's the
nuts.
keto diet going? Good. It sounds like good.
Hang on.
Roy's about to pull out a bunch of sweets, I'm sure.
I got this massive
Oh my god.
coconut cake delivered to me by one of my team members, Argurius. I don't know if you can see this.
Oh!
I don't know what this is. There's this. There's this. There's like all of these.
So not good,
treats.
you're saying?
Not good. I've got like an entire large caramel cake I got given last night.
That sounds good too.
Yeah,
I do love a fudgy brownie though. That sounded good when you said that to me.
Yeah, I saw a really funny tweet yesterday. I don't know if you saw it, but it was basically, it started off very somber, and it was as if someone was eulogizing their sister, and they were like, and there I was as her hand went limped and the life, you know, departed her eyes. I couldn't believe it was real, you know, and all I wished was that one more time she could make her famous brownies. So for this recipe, you will need, and they were like, you know, going on about making fun of how every recipe website has like 5 paragraphs of backstory before it gets to the recipes. Yeah.
I did not see that.
Yeah.
While we're on the brownie topic, though, I did maybe a year ago, I read that somebody was basically saying, you know, a great trick if you're doing these box brownies where they say, you know, put in a cup and a half of canola oil or whatever the case may be, replace that with sesame oil, and it's going to give it a really delicious, interesting, nutty taste. And I was like, that sounds great. And then I did it, and it cost like, it was like $18 of sesame oil, and it was worse than a regular brownie. So disappointing.
Dear. That's a shame. Have you made those 100-hour brownies?
I have not.
This YouTube,
that sounds like too many hours.
Good. But it's like 90 something hours of just them in the fridge or the freezer and just waiting. But oh man, they're so good. Like, so good. I'm gonna eat this thing here.
Okay, Roy's eating
some sort of Philippine sweet. Man, the food here is great. They're really. All right, should we move on?
Sure. This has been the News of the Week segment. News of the Week.
Filipino people are so happy. Like, this might be the happiest country I've ever been in. Like, everyone is just really, really happy and bubbly.
I've been. Not France.
Yeah, not France. Not the USA. Not Germany.
Not Germany.
India's pretty happy.
Never been.
All right.
Art blocks
and
generative art in general. Although I think we don't actually have anything about generative art in general in this particular episode outline.
We have one thing. The Dmitry Cherniak thing. Is that on art blocks or not?
Yeah. I guess not.
The first thing on our list is Jamie is sad about missing gazes, and they are now even too expensive.
They just keep going up.
Him. They do. I'm sad, and I have 2 of them, but I wanted more. Like, infinite regret, right?
Yeah.
I distinctly remember, I think probably almost exactly a year ago, because they passed their 1-year anniversary. We were on this podcast talking about how they weren't really doing anything for us, and we both just like poo-pooed them and were like, yeah. Because at first glance, they don't look great, but you really have to like dig deep into the technology and look at them through like non-traditional like OpenSea or even the Artblocks website. You need to go to the Gazers website to like see how they're meant to look, and there's so much nuance to them that I've it took me many, many months, but I finally came to appreciate them. And then they were already like 5 ETH plus, and
Mhm.
then now they just keep
They
going
just
up.
keep going up, though. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I finally minted my friendship bracelets. Have you
Mm.
minted those yet?
I went through and minted some of them a few
You
days
got
ago.
you got wallets on wallets on wallets, so you probably don't
I
even
do.
know how many.
Correct. Yeah. I thought, because I went a while back, I went through and like moved all of my art blocks largely. I thought to like 2 wallets, but I think I was minting from 4 or 5 already. So stray art blocks. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I had only really seen basically stills and thumbnails of them, but I mean, this is a very common refrain, right? But looking at the
Mm.
full pieces animated, they
Yeah.
look so much better than what I
They're so
thought that
beautiful.
they were based on just the stills.
Yeah.
Also, so that the artist is the same artist who did 720 Minutes, which I'm a big fan of.
Mm.
So that's just sort
Yeah.
of
In collaboration with
relevant.
Snowfro as well, which
Right,
is
right.
kind of cool.
But it's only Alexis's name on it in some way. So
Yeah.
I don't really know if he basically did all the coding and Snowfro just had sort of a little bit of the idea. I don't really know. I haven't looked into it that deeply.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
the
haven't
two of
either.
them in some way.
But they are doing very well. They're a free mint.
They are.
Anyone that had an art blocks, if you're listening to this and you had an art blocks in your wallet, I think the snapshot was
October 1st, I believe.
October 1st. I think it was October 25th, but sometime in October. Go back and check. You have until, I think it's January 23rd, sometime in January. So you have at least another month to go mint 2 free friendship bracelets. And the floor is currently somewhere between like 0.2 and 0.3 each. So it's a bunch. I was shocked by how high the floor is, because the potential max supply is like 70,000. And I think we're
Right.
already somewhere between 20 and 30,000 in supply of a free mint. And people are just absolutely loving them.
25.2 thousand, it looks like right now,
There you go. And they just keep going up in price, seemingly.
with a floor of
Uh,
0.27.
a lot of people are sort of equating them to like squiggles in a certain extent, where a lot of people said, I think us included, oh, the squiggle supply is so high relative to everything else. How can they really go up that much in price? But just
Right.
like there's the meme value, and the art is beautiful, and people like
It
collecting
does
them. And
seem
there's a lot
like
of
there's a
palettes.
dynamic for it to be basically Squiggle Jr., right?
Mm. Yeah.
Now, just in terms of pricing, it remains to be seen just how Junior, because the supply is way bigger, right? It's not the original Art Blocks project. It's not the
not the
mascot
logo.
of Art Blocks, right? So the logo, the mascot. So there is a huge difference. So it's not like I don't foresee any reason to think they'll even be 1/5
Yeah.
the price or whatever. They should only be at current supply 1/3 of the price, just based on supply. Never mind all the other factors that make squiggles more important. And the supply again for these is going to go up a lot more between now and when it ends, because our listeners, for instance, that are just hearing about this now, are going to go mint theirs and be thankful that we informed them about it.
There you
go. I also, I don't know, like, have you clicked on it and seen how it gives you instructions?
Instructions, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to fucking make at least one of these. That's like a fact. I gotta either find one I like and buy it, or figure out which of my 4 I like best before I do that. But I think it's really an interesting idea. I like it.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Also, I don't have I don't have any intentions on selling them. I feel more like I want to give them to friends.
Yeah.
Most likely ones that are not quite in the space yet, right? To try and just kind of get them interested. But yeah, it's a cool project.
Yeah. I think at Marfa they had like an event where they were making them in real life, and that sounded very fun. Yeah,
I got my
very,
Tectonics
very cool
in the mail, so I have to go to the art place to get it framed anyway. So while I'm there, I can get some yarn or whatever to make the bracelet.
There's something else I was going to say. Oh, Archipelago. This is maybe slightly deterred, but yeah, the Archipelago Marketplace website is shutting down. I don't know if it's already shut down or soon will be shutting down.
I think December 5th, they said.
Yeah, so very soon.
I like
it. Sad because
Go ahead.
It was just a much better experience for viewing, browsing, buying, selling art than OpenSea, but I guess not enough people used it that maybe their overheads were significantly, maybe whether it's time or money or both, that didn't make sense for them to keep it up and running.
Yeah. I liked making collection offers on it, and I liked making trade offers on it.
Yeah.
And I had some success buying and selling there.
Gonna go away. Should we go on to the most recent curator drop
Sure.
pre-process?
So this is the first drop in the post-season version of Art Blocks. So just to reiterate to our
No, I
listeners,
think there's been others.
I think there hasn't, but perhaps you're right.
I'm gonna look it up. It's certainly the first drop. Well, it's got a lower supply than anything else. It's the lowest supply curated. It's definitely one of the things that was probably they were trying not to do.
Primitives was the last one. You're right. Primitives was the last in season 8. So this is the third one. I'm an idiot.
Well, that's not news. Any listener of this podcast already.
I don't like when I set you up like that.
Well, anyway, so this is the third non-season delineated curated drop, but there's two interesting things. One is it's a double, it's a second curated drop by an artist, Casey Rias, and it's, I believe, the first time a curated artist has by themselves released a second collection. There's been one before where it was sort of like a polychrome music with, I think, was it
Raphael Rosendahl?
Yeah, who did
Endless Nameless.
Endless Nameless, yeah. But he did that in collaboration with someone else, and this is the first time that someone all by themselves has done a second curated drop. Casey Rias is an absolute OG in the generative art space. He literally wrote the book on generative art.
Wrote the language and the book.
Wrote the language and the book. And the supply is 120, which is by far the lowest. The second lowest is 200. And yeah, sold out. I totally missed the Dutch auction at I think 4.5 or 5 ETH.
I think it sold out at 5.
Currently at almost 8. And yeah, have you looked at it much?
I have not looked at it much. I looked at one the other day, and it appears to be art that I like more than Century and I can't remember the name of his Photo Access or Photaxis.
Photo Access.
His playground drop. The one that I looked at the other day looked more interesting and attractive to me than both of those drops, but I only basically opened the project page, looked for a thumbnail that looked kind of appealing to me, and watched live view for a little bit. So I've not explored the algorithm almost at all. In fact, when I was watching it, so it's animated, I watched it for maybe 20 seconds, and then it got to a point where it seemed like it was not changing much. So I don't even know if the animation stops eventually and comes to a still image, or if it goes in perpetuity. So that's how little I know about the algorithm. I do think the supply thing is interesting. I haven't paid attention to elevated deconstruction in the aftermath, but it'll be interesting to see if the market really sort of dings that project for this, or they can kind of separate because of the season thing enough that it doesn't matter so much.
Looks like elevated deconstruction has a floor of 69 ETH. Nice. I don't know what it was at prior to the drop.
That does not seem like it's taken a hit then.
No. Yeah.
So
boy, they got to 200 ETH. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Elevated deconstruction were 200 ETH in the peak bull market last year. Yeah. What a time.
Just like Dino Pals.
Oh my god. that was a fumble.
There was a lot of missed selling that all of us that were around Art Blocks did at that point, I think.
Yeah.
We just maybe have to be thankful for the selling that we did do.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually just reminiscing about this the other day with my friend, and I sold so little during that time, but I think I basically sold what was the Jorge drop?
I don't know exactly what it looks like.
It's like Windows Falling or something.
Yeah.
I
Um,
sold 2 of those and some elementals and a couple stipple sunsets. So this person this friend of mine when I was talking to,
Libertad Param Trizada.
yes, that one. I did very well selling a couple of those. So this friend is very into the friendship bracelets project and is buying a lot of them, but was sort of asking me, how do I not fuck this up if they do start doing well? You know what I mean? And so it sort of brought me back to that peak euphoric time and how my main theory these days is that you just have to be able to identify the euphoria and step back and actually sell rather than just
Mm,
getting so excited about it. And I was telling him specifically,
yeah.
I had a friend who, as the art blocks was going crazier and crazier, I was sending him a picture of the singularity that I own, and then quoting to him the floor price in US dollars. And it was just funny, like when it's now 5 days after the last time, and I'm going back to the chat to quote it and update him that it's now another $13,000 more expensive. Like, that was my clue to be selling it rather than bragging to my friend about how
Yeah.
quickly and how much the price was going up. And so I was trying to
Yeah.
convey to him, that if you get to the point where these friendship bracelets that you bought a bunch of are doing so well that you are
Yeah.
spending all of your time talking about how well these friendship bracelets you bought are doing, it's time to
Yeah.
start selling them
Good sell
in decent
signal.
numbers.
Yeah. We've all hopefully learned a lot from last year.
Yeah.
Whew. Anyway. How much do you know about Light Years by Dmitry Cherniak?
It's black and white. I've seen some stills. I've seen him tweeting about it, but I haven't watched like any of the videos or anything like that about it. So comparatively quite little, I would say. How about you?
I also don't know a lot about it. I know it's like in collaboration with someone, the estate of Laszlo Moholy Nagy. Um, but yeah, I mean, I really don't know too much about it. It's got I think it just released yesterday. Um, Laszlo was a Hungarian modernist artist who embraced new technologies and modern materials in his work. Um,
From the Bauhaus
and
school.
yeah, and he passed away in like a long time ago, 1946, it looks like. And I believe, I mean, I have to imagine that is a huge inspiration for Dimitri, or Dimitri is a large fan and has been chatting with the estate, the family,
Looks
to
like it's sold out at 22F.
22 what?
ETH?
ETH. And it's like 30 something now, right?
I had not looked at
30.9.
that. Looks like, yeah, 30.9 is the floor on
Yeah.
what's it called? OpenSea.
Yeah. There's so much money to be made if, like, it seems like all of these very expensive Dutch auction things sell out and then there's immediately jump in price. Like it happened with QQL, it happened with the super rare pass, and it happened again with this.
Yeah,
It happened
QQL's
with
come
Tyler
back
Hobbs.
quite a
It
bit though.
has. Yeah. What are they at? Do you have any interest in trying to pick one of those up?
I
They're at
definitely have an
9.4 ETH.
Yeah, I do have an
Yeah.
interest. I would like to keep watching it go down before I do it, but I would love to have a mint pass for that. I
Yeah.
would like that a lot, actually.
Yeah. Very interesting. You know what's been going up a bit lately? Mutant Garden Cedar, which is
Oh yeah, what are they at?
they're at 11 now.
Okay.
Which is, they went down to like 4.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. They're
I've
by
been impressed by how expensive they were for a while now. That was one project that I was never interested in artistically, but sort of an interesting idea that it just continues to evolve or whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, I remember I was on NFT-Fi maybe 2 months ago or whatever, and saw somebody put theirs up looking for it, and I was shocked by how high the floor was. I think it was like 8.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, generative art, it's bucking the bear market largely. Like it's down 80% instead of 98%.
Right, which is huge, but also
Yeah.
in many ways not that impressive. Although I don't know
Yeah.
how high that collection ever actually got.
Got to about 20. Because I
Did
remember
it?
I sold one kind of peak bull at like 18, and it was like my highest sale ever, and I was very thrilled with it. And good old days. Have you been keeping an eye on FX Hash much lately?
Okay. only the tiniest bit, basically. I basically saw that Volatile Moods had a new project that looked awesome. That so he was the guy that did Rough Cuts, which I had a bunch of, and I was actually the one that minted the project out when there was like 20 left or whatever. And this was sort of an extension on that, because Rough Cuts, I'm not going to spend too much time getting into it, but it's supposed to basically look like an abstract, actual real life painting, but it's all hard angles. And so this next algorithm is sort of the same idea, but there's curvature to it and stuff, and a lot of them look fantastic. Anyway, the price went crazy, and then Rough Cuts kind of followed in its stead a little bit, not to the same extent. But this seems to be a recurring thing where I find a project and an artist I like on FX Hash. I buy a bunch of a project that kind of stagnates, and then I don't pay enough attention and follow up, and then they have a follow-up project that goes crazy. And a follow-up project with art that I like and would have bought if I was paying enough attention. I need to be listening.
So hard to keep up.
Yeah, I need to be listening to the waiting to be signed
waiting
podcast,
to be signed.
Honestly.
Yeah,
because we talked to them a little in the group chat.
Art.
And they talk about the upcoming drops of the people that have already done stuff.
Yeah, there's not enough hours in the day, Jamie. There's so much good content to listen to, so many awesome drops, so many things happening in so many different areas of the space. Ooh, you know what is very exciting to me? Game of Thrones are coming out with NFTs, and I've been like, I did a couple of Twitter Spaces with them. Yeah, it's very exciting. Like they've got, they're using obviously it's very like their official Game of Thrones IP is being used, and they're building this whole dynamic NFT system where you mint a box and you get an avatar plus cards, and the cards are like resource cards and or equipment cards, which you can use to like upgrade your weapon or your material. It's very interesting sounding and very exciting. Like they're taking a lot of time to do it like properly.
Kayla fucking loves the Targaryens now. She's all in on the Targaryens after the Fire and Blood show.
Boy.
She loves them.
Well, I mean, the first Game of Thrones drop is, I think they're focusing on the north, but it sounds like they're going to do all of the regions and then eventually. So
I have not heard anything about this, and I am intrigued.
Yeah,
well, that is some IP that I find awesome. I quite enjoy.
Well, I believe we're getting some allow-less spots at Zen Academy, so keep an eye out.
Oh, speaking of which, we got. But I guess we're still in the. So you want to go to the?
We're in the generative art section. Maybe let's close. Do we have anything else generative art related?
No, I think we covered all the things that we have in our notes at least.
All right, this has been
art blocks and generative art in general.
Our projects,
or at least Roy's project. I mean, you got some big stuff going on, Roy.
We have a lot going on. So for those paying attention, yesterday, probably 48 hours ago, by the time you listen to this, at Zen Academy, we launched our new website. 48 hours from this episode goes live.
Okay.
Let's say November 30th, 2022. There we go. In the US, December 1st.
Yeah, what time zone?
Recently, from the time of recording, we launched our new website and opened up a burn mechanism for existing holders of Genesis tokens or 333 Club tokens. And effectively, this is like the first step towards, our PFP collection and just a evolution in the history or the future of Zen Academy, where we're moving away from the ELT 11. Both the history and the future. It's the future, and then it's going to be the history one day. Moving away from these 1155 tokens, these letters, and moving to something a little more fun, exciting. So 333 Club members burned their token and got a really, I think, beautiful looking membership club pass that was done by my favorite artist, Pondering. He's from Thailand. He did a lot of stuff for us. He did like the Twitter background that I was using for so long. He did these 333 Club membership passes, and he has done these chests, which are the other big exciting thing that we released, which are kind of think of them as like Renga black boxes, CloneX vials. I think I might have spoken about this on previous episode, but basically everyone who has a Genesis token can burn one for one, burn their token, get a chest, and then in Q1 next year, is what we're aiming for. You'll be able to reveal, open your chest, and get your PFP.
Now, is
And,
there any
yeah,
reason that somebody should not burn? Is there
no,
considerations? So it's a
no,
thing that you should definitely do.
you should definitely do. There's no time limit, so like you can do this
So there's
in
no
a
rush,
year.
but
There's no
there's
rush.
no planned game theory fun stuff for people to consider. Oh, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. It's just this is the evolution. So grab one of these things with your
Correct.
thing. Okay, simple.
For the letters, when it comes to the chests, to the PFP, I think there'll be some game theory fun stuff because it'll be kind of like, an you don't know if you have a rare
Yeah,
or
you have
not,
right,
and then
right. That's simple.
we might be able to say like there's 21 of ones in the collection and only 8 of them have been revealed, and there's only 2,500 boxes left, so the
Right.
chances that one of them is a 1-of-1 goes up, and people can start having fun with it when we get
I
to
don't
that point.
actually.
But
Sorry. How many Zen Academy Genesises were out there before this burn mechanism started?
7,848.
Okay.
And then
Very specific answer.
well, we did an open edition, so it was however many got minted in a 2-week period.
Right, but
last
you
year.
didn't say 7,800 or you 7,800.
Well, I know the exact number, so I'm going to say the
if
exact number.
If anybody's going to know, it is you. But I was just pulled it
And,
right out of your head.
Yeah, and there's going to be 10K chests though. So what we did was anyone who had a 3-3 club pass was able to claim 3 chests, and that gets us to just under 9K. And then we're minting 1,153 to basically
to
sell
our listeners.
Well, we might give some away. We'll give some away,
Okay.
but we're going to sell
not all 1,100.
the bulk of them. We're not going to give all 1,100 away. We're going to sell them basically just to fund the mint and everything because it's free for existing holders, and so we are a business. We need money. We're not VC backed, and royalties are maybe not a thing to rely on. They're definitely not a thing to rely on. So we're going to sell those 1,100 and. Yeah, keep an eye out for that. So that's exciting stuff happening. It's been a busy week, like straddling being in the Philippines. I had like 3 panels and a talk to give this week, and then time zones have been really backwards. I'm like basically on the other side of the world, and then we've been launching this. So I'm looking forward to sleeping tomorrow when I'm heading home.
Like this is normally when we record and you're in Germany and it's like way too late for you to still be up, but now in the Philippines it's like even crazier.
It's 8 a.m. So we started at 7 a.m. So I had a really good night's sleep last night. I slept from like 10 p.m. and I woke up at 3 a.m. for a meeting and then went to sleep again at 4, and then so I got about 8 hours despite being broken. But yeah, it's I have no semblance of times and time zones and anything anymore.
So in January, you're saying that these chests are going to be then turning into the profile. Like how firm
more likely
are the
well, I'd say
dates?
Q1 2023.
Okay.
It's much more likely to be like March. To be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. But you know, things might come together sooner rather than later. Hopefully not later, like we've been saying Q1.
Now, are you taking inspiration from the Azerbaians or whatever for the profile picture art?
Well, we're taking learnings from them.
Okay.
in sort of like what not to do. So, I mean, yeah, we want to show sneak peeks and previews when we can to sort of just gut check that we're moving in the right direction. But also, we're not trying to be like crazy experimental. I think that's something that a lot of projects maybe
what hasn't been done before.
Exactly.
Ostensibly, right, the thing that makes these projects successful is the community and theoretically the utility, not necessarily that this one's 3D and cell shaded, which hasn't been done before or whatever.
Yeah, so we don't want to. We're not trying to push the boundaries and do something revolutionary. We're going to do something that looks beautiful and that people can enjoy and appreciate and have fun with. But for me, the biggest thing is that they're like instantly recognizable as a Zen Academy PFP. And I mean, there's a bunch of examples that you can instantly recognize a project. Like Doodles, they're very, their color palette. Dead Fellas, just that green is very clearly them.
Yeah.
And so we just want to make sure that ours fits that checkbox and is beautiful and fun. And then, that's kind of the gist of it for what I'm going to say for now with the PFP. And we
Right
keep
on.
building.
Right. Yep.
Yep.
I was going to say my profile picture right now is just a blit knot, which I'm not particularly attached to. I want to get an algo bot with a wedge body, but those ones are in pretty diamond hands, and I've been unsuccessful so far. That's my goal right now for one. But if I can't get one in time, I think I'm going to have to probably change it to whatever my best one is out of my, I believe, 3 Zen Academy Genesis tokens.
Nice. Blitmap, Blitnauts, they're launching their logos collection in January, I believe.
Is that like the villain thing to the Blitnauts?
I think so, yeah.
Because I remember last time I was paying attention, that was the thing that they were working on.
Yeah. I read a Notion page yesterday about how they're launching, and you get like 3 PFPs in one. One is like a pixel version. One is like a 2D still more elaborate version, and then one is a 3D model, which is kind of cool. Like I don't think I've seen a project do a pixel and another version at the same time. But
yeah, I mean, there's sort of been like the instances where you get sort of an official sandbox version of it and stuff like that, but not quite the same.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the big update on our end. Anything interesting happening on your end?
I'm just watching a tremendous amount of sports right now. I'm watching basketball, I'm watching football, and now I'm watching soccer too because of the World Cup. I'm trying to keep up with StarCraft 2. I'm swamped, right? I'm swamped.
You're swamped. I met someone the other day, or a couple of people, who were surprised that you watch sport. Just didn't seem like you were the type.
No, I can see that. I have a lot of interests that are generally not in the overlap of the whatever that thing.
Then I told them how you used
Venn
to
diagram.
box in high school, and they were like totally blown away.
Yeah,
as was I when I first heard that.
Okay, so a lot of times we like to play What Am I Thinking?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, as I look at this, I'm not sure how fun and exciting it is, but I read an article the other day about concrete. Are you familiar with concrete?
I am familiar with
building
concrete.
material.
I know what it is. Correct.
So I have a couple.
That's almost an insulting question.
It was rhetorical. I knew you did.
Okay.
I have a couple pieces of information here about it, and I'm going to ask you these questions. Okay, so what I have here now, are you familiar with global warming?
Yes, Jamie.
Okay, well, producing concrete is a big contributor to this. So now I have the total percentage of global emissions that are related to or directly come from the production of concrete. Okay? So I have that fact, and I want you to guess what percentage you think that is. And then I have another
2%. Oh, we're going through a bunch.
2.2. Okay, that's your official guess. I'm going to write this down. 2.2.
Well, let me hear the rest of the questions.
Okay.
But yeah, for now,
the other question is, all right, so what to make it, there's a couple steps involved, but at the beginning you take limestone, which is CaCO3, and you add heat to it, okay? You're familiar with chemical equations. And what you get is called quicklime, CaO plus carbon dioxide, okay? And so the way that making concrete contributes to global warming, contributes to these emissions, is directly on the right-hand side of the equation. It emits carbon dioxide. But on the other side of the equation, it's producing this heat in order to make the reaction, okay? And I have the percentages of the CO2 emissions that come from the direct release of CO2 on the end, and the percentage of it that comes from the heat to make the reaction on the beginning. And so I want you to guess on those two. CaCO3 plus heat turns into CaO plus CO2. So how much is that CO2 contributing, and how much is that heat contributing? As a percentage of 100, for concrete.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to stick with 2.2%, and then I'm going to go with I'm going to say the heat is contributing 3%. And then 97%. Yeah.
Wow, okay. So you're way off on that one. That one, it's 60% direct and 40% free.
I thought it was going to be like way like skewed in one direction or the other.
It
That's
has
why
to
you're
get
asking the question.
you have to get very, very hot to make this reaction happen. And the other thing is the concrete production is 8% of total global emissions.
Wow, that is high.
Yeah, I mean we use a lot of concrete, and it directly creates CO2 just to make it. So there you go. That was my fun trivia.
Another science lesson by Jaime Musings.
Listeners, write in if you did better than Roy at guessing these numbers.
Write in if you want us to bring back What Am I Thinking?
Just write in general, right? We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Yeah. Write in the Discord, tweet at us, etc., etc.
Etc., etc.
Donate blood. Wear your seatbelt.
Wear your seatbelts. So how did you feel about the Twitter poll about that?
I was surprised that, like, I thought, so the whole reason I put the Twitter poll out is because we were chatting, and I thought that, like, 98% of our listeners wear a seatbelt. And that might still be true. Like, my Twitter poll said it was, like, 85% always wear a seatbelt, like 6% almost always wear a seatbelt, and then 9% wear somewhere between rarely and never, which to me blows my mind. Like, why are people not wearing seatbelts, Jamie?
Because their favorite podcast doesn't remind them frequently enough to do it. So that's where we come in and say, hey, wear your seatbelt, right?
So the thing that blew my mind the most from that poll was that there was a reply which basically someone was saying their grandparents don't wear seatbelts, and they even have bought these devices
I saw that
are like, they were like a little, like the seatbelt plug, the clip thing that you put in to stop the car from beeping. And they paid money to buy this thing to plug in. So they're going through the motion of plugging in, and it's just like, why don't you just wear your, why do you not just wear your seatbelt?
Because in my mind, the most common reason not to do it is just absent-mindedness. But this person is not absent-mindedly not. They're intentionally fake buckling it so the car will shut up.
Yeah.
No. The other reason, wear your seatbelts, people.
The other reason I would imagine why people might not wear them is like cultural things. Like growing up, we would go to India every year or two, and like people just didn't wear seatbelts there. The cars didn't even have seatbelts in them for a very long time, and then eventually they put them in, and then there was like the front side, so people just did not even get into the habit, or even didn't have the education, or even just like the cars were not built for seatbelt wearing. So I can understand why people who grew up in that environment are not used to wearing seatbelts, but
I wonder there's just an element of like you're being a cool badass by intentionally putting yourself in danger. It's like in the same way that riding a motorcycle. I think about it a lot lately.
I wish I was a smoker. Like smoking seems really cool.
Jesus. By the way, I want our listeners to know, Roy just said he wants to be a smoker. He told me like a week and a half ago, I think I'm going to get really into looking into like longevity and how best to increase your, when every single thing in all of medical science says the number one thing to lower all-cause mortality, don't fucking smoke. And Roy's going, I think maybe I should take up smoking.
Well, I don't think that you'd
look cool.
I love the smell of tobacco. I love the smell of tobacco.
I smoked a pipe in high school, which is so strange. I did a project on Albert Einstein, and he smoked pipe tobacco, and I was like, oh, I should do that. And then so I was in like 10th grade, I'm smoking tobacco out of a pipe. What a weirdo.
I would love to meet 10th grade Jamie.
He was a mess. Good boxer, though. Good boxer. All right. This has been episode 62. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
Tune in next week, etc.